Hey, Marietta. So we talking about the Levite concubine and Naomi. The Levite concubine, Broken Pieces, Judges 19 relates the horrific account of a woman's life and death in such graphic details that it could cause us to think we're reading a grisly novel rather than the Bible. This anomalous woman was the concubine, a legitimate but secondary wife of a Levite. After being unfaithful to the Levite, she left him and returned to her father's home. 4 months later, her husband set out on a journey to convince her to come back to him. The Levite arrived at the home of his concubine's fathers. There he spent many days conversing with her father, and he repeatedly put off his journey home in order to stay with his host. Like last in Genesis 19, the Levite hesitated. His lack of strength of mind set the stage for the ensuing tragedy. Finally, the Levite began the journey home, accompanied by his concubine. We do not know if she was coerced or convinced to go, but she left with the Levite and his servant. When evening came, the travelers stopped in an Israel town in the territory of Benjamin to find shelter for the night. They were taken in by a hospital. Strangers just had to begin to look as if they would have to spend the night in the town square. Again, in a story that contains many parallels to that of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, men from the town swarmed to the man's door, seeking to have sex with the Levite guest. Instead, the man offered his daughter and the Levite concubine. At first, the wicked men of the city refused the offer, but eventually the Levite sent his concubine out to them. Violation and death result. The subsequent dismemberment and distribution of the concubine's body led to civil war in Israel. There are countless women around us today who are broken into many pieces. They have suffered horrible violence and abuse. Many of these women darken the doors of our churches and ministries. Often they remain anonymous, unheard, and unspoken to. They literally are standing at the threshold crying out for help, and we step over them and continue on our own journeys, just as the Levite tried to. If you feel broken and wonder if anyone even knows your name, remember that God knows who you are. When society continues to rob you of your dignity, God is able to take every broken piece of your life and bring about wholeness. Moving right along to Naomi. Call me bitter. My family left our hometown, Bethlehem, with thoughts of a better life. My husband and I packed up our 2 sons and moved to the country of Moab because there was a feminine in Israel. We became comfortable in Moab, but one day the unthinkable happened. My husband died. The only thing that helped relieve my grief was the marriages of my sons. Although my daughter-in-laws were Moabites rather than Israel, I grew to love them like daughters. Then, unbelievable, both of my sons died. I was thrown into the depths of despair, and Ruth, Oprah, and I were left alone in an unkind world. At the time, I thought it was funny. While my name means pleasant, my spirit counters with a light-hearted name. Instead, my spirit says, call me bitter. When I heard that Pharaoh was over in Israel, I decided to return home. I thought that at least my people were there, and I could wait my time out to die. My daughters-in-law begged to return to Bethlehem with me because they were determined not to leave me alone. But what could I offer them? While we were on the journey to Israel, I convinced Oprah to return to her family in Moab. But Ruth refused to go. She was determined to accompany me. I reluctantly allowed her to do so. When we arrived in Bethlehem, our status as widows meant we had no one to care for us. We had no food, and I was too old to work. When my friends tried to comfort me, all I could say is, call me better. Now I realize just how God blessed me by giving me Ruth. She gleaned in the field so that we could eat. And when she was fortunate enough to work on the property of one of my relatives, Boaz, she followed my advice and eventually married this kind man. Ruth and Boaz then took care of me. But my story does not end there. When Ruth had a son, she brought him to me to care for. Call me bitter. No. God has taken my bitterness and given me a garment of praise. I praise him for Ruth because I know now that she is more valuable to me than 7 sons. And I'll be back, y'all.